welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we dig into the material you've been looking at, pull out the key stuff, and basically give you a shortcut to really knowing what's what. Today, we're jumping into something pretty fascinating. The world of AI, but seen through, well, a really unique fictional lens. It's inspired by Ryan Coogler's 2025 film, Sinners.
Yeah, it's this blend of, vampire lore, hoodoo horror set against the backdrop of the 1930s Jim Crow South. Really potent mix.
Absolutely. And for this deep dive, we've got some interesting sources lined up.
We do. We're looking at parts of an article called AI Ethics and Justice in Therapy, transcripts from YouTube breakdowns of Sinners, New Rock Stars and Screen Crush. Plus, there's a document, Sinner with AI Integration.pdf, and another one called The Algorithm and the Sinner. So quite a bit to unpack.
Okay, so our mission today really is to explore what AI can do the good and maybe the not so good when we think about it in the context of the themes in Sinners. Things like truth, memory, guilt.
Cultural identity, too.
Right. Expect some maybe surprising links and questions. These two worlds kind of collide. So let's start with Sinners itself. Beyond the vampires and the horror, what's the heart of this world Coogler built?
Well, fundamentally, Sinners is set really deep in a specific time and place. Clarksdale, Mississippi, 1932. Jim Crow South. And this isn't just window dressing, it's vital. It comes directly from Ryan Coogler's own family history. His grandfather, his Uncle James, both from Mississippi.
Oh, right. I remember reading something about his uncle, how that connection was important for the film.
Yeah, absolutely. His Uncle James moved to Oakland, and after he passed away back in 2015, Coogler found himself connecting Delta blues music with, his memory of him. And that personal angle really shapes how the film looks at legacy, identity, even tricky stuff like who owns culture, cultural appropriation.
But the music itself becomes a kind of carrier.
Yeah.
Like for ancestral memory.
Exactly. The film suggests that. It's like the music is this bridge across generations, carrying experiences.
And that idea, ancestral experience through music, that links up with the storytelling traditions the film highlights, right?
Precisely. The New Rock Stars breakdown actually points this out. The film starts by mentioning storytelling traditions, Irish poets, chaff firekeepers, West African griots.
Griots, like Shuri's, AI, and Wakanda Forever.
That's the one, yeah. All these groups kept their history and culture alive through spoken word, song, dance. So this deep respect for storytelling, for oral tradition, it's a really big part of the film's world.
Gotcha. And I think I read there's a sort of tension in the film.
Yeah.
Between these traditions and, the main religion.
Yeah, that's a key conflict. The film explores this idea that maybe there's truth hidden in myths, specifically the legend of Robert Johnson, selling his soul at the crossroads for musical talent, maybe with the devil, maybe Papa Legba, the crossroads spirit. And this whole idea connects to the character Sammy in the film. He's drawn to the blues, even though he's in this really strong religious environment.
And visually, Sinners sounds like it's designed to really pull you in. The choices about film formats, they seem really intentional.
Oh, absolutely intentional. Coogler worked with his cinematographer, Autumn Durald Arkapaw, and production designer Hannah Beachler, both from Wakanda Forever, actually. And they made very specific choices. They used IMAX 65mm and also Ultra Panavision.
Right, I saw that Codex video with Coogler, IMAX for the height.
Yeah, exactly. That taller IMAX ratio was for scenes like the vampire fights, stuff inside the church, gives it scale, makes you feel like you're in it. Then Ultra Panavision, which is much wider, they use that to emphasize isolation, the emotional weight of the landscape, those endless seeming cotton fields. Really effective.
And that visual storytelling goes beyond the format, right?
Yeah.
Colors, set design details.
It does. They use these really rich, vibrant, deep colors, creates this incredibly atmospheric world. And yeah, Ruth Carter on costumes, Hannah Beachler on production design. The detail is amazing. In the church scene, there are 3 crosses, and the framework uses planks that are 33 inches long.
Symbolism there, obviously. Trinity, Jesus' age.
Right. And Beachler even hinted there's a Wakanda Forever Easter egg in the church. Maybe something with how the wooden planks form a W. Little details like that.
The film's idea of sin itself sounds like it's not straightforward judgment.
No, not at all. Coogler said the film kind of assumes everyone's a sinner in some way. The point isn't to judge, but more to understand the lie behind it all. The reasons, the truths that lead to these actions.
Like that Bible verse Sammy reads.
Yeah, 1 Corinthians 10:13. It talks about temptation being universal, but not inescapable. There's always a way out. It fits that theme of understanding rather than just condemning.
Okay, and there's this connection shown between Chicago and Mississippi in the film. That seems important too.
Oh, definitely. It really taps into the Great Migration, huge numbers of Black Americans moving north from the South, escaping Jim Crow, looking for opportunities. Mississippi to Chicago was a major route. Now, Smoke and Stack's story isn't quite that direct path they were in World War I first, then Chicago, but their experiences there, the gang stuff with Irish and Italian mobs, that details even in the Center's album on Spotify. It shows this ongoing cycle of violence just in a different setting. And the mention of Emmett Till, a boy from Chicago murdered in the Mississippi Delta, that makes the connection just incredibly painful and real.
Wow. Heavy stuff. And the rattlesnake scene. That sounds loaded with meaning, too.
It really is. When Smoke kills a rattlesnake, it's like,
Oh.
it's serious foreshadowing for what happens later with Remick, the vampire, and Sammy. New rock stars pointed out the visual parallels: Smoke cutting off the snake's head, later staking Remick, and Sammy using silver against Remick. It's striking. Plus, snakes often symbolize both evil and rebirth, which kind of resonates with vampire lore too, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And the town itself, Clarksdale, in the film, it sounds like a real melting pot for that time and place.
It is surprisingly diverse. You've got a tamale shop, which points to Mexican laborers historically working the cotton fields there. There's the WQBC radio station adding local flavor. And Screen Crush highlighted the Chinese immigrants. They had this kind of unique position during segregation, sometimes serving the Black community when white businesses refused. So they had to navigate that, do a lot of code switching depending on who they were talking to.
And Delta Slim's view on the blues, that sounds like it really nails a central conflict.
Oh, that line. White folks, they like the blues just fine. They just don't like the people who made it. It cuts right to the heart of that prejudice, the appropriation of Black culture. And he also makes the point, the blues wasn't forced on them like religion was. It came from their experience. It's about ownership, resilience.
Even tiny details, like the color of Annie's house, they mean something.
Yeah. Her house is painted haint blue, Haint blue. It's a traditional hoodoo thing, meant to ward off bad spirits. Her clothes, some other things she does connect her to Vodou traditions too. It just adds these layers of different spiritual practices.
And Grace's look.
Right. Grace has this kind of Rosie the Riveter vibe, maybe a bit early for the 30s historically, but visually it signals, working women, her strength in the community.
Okay, and we can't forget the main bad guy, Remick the vampire. His background connects to history, too.
It does. He's Irish, so his origins tie back to the Irish struggle for independence. Jack O'Connell, the actor, mentioned Remick comes from a time before all the racial divisions in the film's setting. So Remick is confused by it, hates it intensely. It makes him a bit more complex than just a monster, which fits Coogler's-style antagonists with some depth,
And the film uses some classic vampire rules.
Yeah, you see the familiar stuff. Needing an invitation to come inside, being vulnerable to garlic, wooden stakes, silver. The classics are there.
Okay. Screen Crush's analysis you mentioned, they dug into some deeper themes beyond just the scares.
Yeah, Screen Crush really focused on culture, the idea of culture evolving versus stagnating. The vampires kind of represent that stagnation,
Yeah.
right? They're stuck. And tied to that is the importance of remembering your roots, honoring where you came from. That's a big theme they pulled out.
And the idea of free will, or people just stuck on a path.
That's a huge conflict. Smoke seems to believe your background, your circumstances pretty much lock you into a path. Limited free will, maybe. But the film, especially Sammy's journey and this really symbolic baptism scene later on, it seems to argue, no, you can break free. You can make your own future. Leave the past's burdens behind.
Okay, wow. So that's a really rich world.
Yeah.
Now let's bring in the AI angle. Thinking about that AI ethics and justice and therapy source, how might AI tools function in a world like Sinners? What could they actually do?
Right, so that source gives us a good starting point. One obvious area is just information processing. Evidence. Imagine AI systems that could churn through old records, analyze crime scenes incredibly fast, that could potentially surf in details human investigators might just miss, especially with all the history and secrets in a place like Clarksdale in the film.
So AI as a kind of super assistant for digging up clues.
Basically, yeah. Think about reconstructing timelines from scattered bits of info or spotting patterns in things that seem totally unconnected. In a world as layered as Sinners with all its hidden connections, that could be really powerful.
And what about the psychological side? Could AI help understand the characters, what makes them tick?
Maybe. You could potentially use AI to analyze how people talk, their writing, maybe look for behavioral patterns. It might offer some clues about their emotional state or, hidden motives. In a setting like Sinners, where so much is unspoken, so many old tensions exist, that kind of analysis could potentially reveal quite a lot.
Interesting. And it's not just about official investigations, right? Maybe individuals could use AI.
That's a really good point. Yeah, characters might use AI tools themselves, maybe to figure out who they can trust or dig into local history, understand the dangers around them. Could be a tool for survival almost.
So AI could be powerful, but also tricky
Mhm.
in this kind of setting.
Exactly. It's definitely a double-edged sword. Speed, pattern recognition, that's great. But AI runs on data. And in a world like Sinners, filled with potential bias, rumors, maybe deliberately wrong information, you'd have to be super careful about trusting the AI's output completely. Human judgment, critical thinking, still absolutely essential. You can't just take the algorithm's word for it.
Okay, so let's shift gears slightly. Thinking specifically about the Sinner TV series, and which also deals with those deep, wide unit questions,
Yeah.
how might AI change that narrative? It sounds like it could speed things up, yeah? But maybe change what the show is fundamentally about.
That's the core question, isn't it? AI's speed with data could definitely fast-track finding out what happened and who did it in Ambrose's cases. But like you said, the Sinner isn't really about just solving the puzzle. It's about Ambrose getting deep into the why, the complex, messy, human reasons. AI's data-first approach might give you quick answers, but maybe miss the crucial psychological nuances Ambrose is so good at sensing.
Right, it's like AI could give you the solution to the crossword, but you wouldn't understand the wordplay or the clues. You wouldn't get the real meaning.
Exactly that. AI might flag a suspect based on probability or data links, but it wouldn't necessarily get the specific trauma, the unique trigger that led to the crime. Think about Cora Tenetti in season 1. Her trigger was that specific song. So personal, so seemingly random. An AI looking for broad patterns might totally miss something like that. It could even send Ambrose down the wrong path entirely.
So introducing AI could shift the mystery itself from purely psychological to something else.
Yeah, I think so. Instead of just wrestling with the ambiguities of the human mind, you'd introduce technological ambiguities. The AI reliable? Is the data skewed? Could the AI be wrong? It adds this whole other layer of uncertainty onto the moral complexities the show already explores.
But maybe AI could also help Ambrose, enhance his own methods somehow.
Oh, for sure. It could definitely augment what he already does. Imagine AI sifting through huge amounts of digital footprints, emails, social media, all that stuff Ambrose might miss just because there's too much. And forensics. AI could be incredible there, reconstructing crime scenes virtually, analyzing tiny bits of evidence with amazing precision.
And could it help with the psychological side, the part Ambrose really focuses on?
Well, potentially. AI tools might analyze behavior, language patterns in interviews, maybe even microexpressions or voice stress to flag deception or distress. Now, these wouldn't replace Ambrose's intuition, his empathy, but they could give him extra data points, things to consider as he's building his picture of the sinner and why they did what they did.
It definitely sounds like giving Ambrose AI tools would create some serious conflicts for him, wouldn't it? Given how much he relies on gut feeling and connection.
Oh, absolutely. That's where the real tension would be. AI works on logic, data, probability. Its conclusions might just clash head-on with Ambrose's empathy-based insights. He might find himself arguing against the machine based on his human understanding. And what about transparency? If the AI says, this person is suspicious, but Ambrose can't see why the infamous black box problem, how does he build a case he truly understands? It undermines his whole process.
And that leads to that idea of an efficiency paradox you mentioned. AI speeds up the who and what, but maybe gets in the way of the deeper why.
Exactly. If AI leads to quick arrests based on correlations, the pressure might be to just accept that and move on. Amber's real mission, understanding the root cause, the deep psychological why, could get sidelined. He'd have to push back even harder, probably, to follow those more complex human threads.
It's almost like he'd have to become a different kind of investigator, not just solving the crime, but also like debugging the AI, checking its work.
That's a really interesting way to put it, a meta-investigator, because AI systems aren't perfect. They have biases, they make mistakes. Ambrose, with his skepticism and eye for inconsistencies, might actually be uniquely suited to spotting the flaws in the AI's reasoning. He'd be investigating the investigation itself, in a way.
And given Ambrose's own baggage, his own traumas, how would getting these potentially intense AI insights into other people's minds affect him?
That's a dangerous edge. AI could give him these incredibly detailed, maybe disturbingly intimate, but also potentially quite cold, clinical glimpses into suspect psyches. It could pull him even deeper into their worlds, blurring those lines he already struggles with. And yeah, his own past might make him misinterpret the AI's analysis, see echoes that aren't really there, or maybe miss things because of his own blind spots. It could amplify his own demons.
Okay, let's get specific. How might AI change some of the big storylines from The Sinner? Season 1, Cora Tenetti.
Right, Cora? You could imagine AI trying to reconstruct her fragmented memories. Huge potential, maybe unlocking trauma, but also huge risk, right? Implanting false memories, amplifying her confusion. AI could analyze the beach evidence super fast. But the core of that season, Cora's desperate struggle to understand herself, that might get flattened by a quick AI-generated explanation. And the ethics of using AI to probe someone's deepest wounds, that becomes a massive issue.
Okay, Season 2, Julian Walker, The Mosswood Cult.
For Mosswood, AI could be great at mapping the cult's network, analyzing their ideology, maybe exposing secrets faster. It could also be used to assess Julian psychologically. But the ethics of AI evaluating a child, that's really thorny territory. AI might confirm the poison quickly, sure, but the slow burn of Ambrose understanding Julian and the cult's grip that might get lost if it's just algorithmic analysis revealing everything clinically.
Season 3, Jamie Burns and his philosophical breakdown.
With Jamie, AI could analyze his writings, his online life, maybe even try to predict his escalation. AI looking at Sonia's art could add another layer. But that intellectual, philosophical cat-and-mouse game between Ambrose and Jamie, that's the heart of it. Would AI providing Ambrose with, cheat codes to Jamie's thinking change that dynamic fundamentally? Maybe make it less about human understanding and more about pattern matching.
And Season 4, Pussy Muldoon, The Island Community.
Here, AI could be amazing at crunching data from that closed community, the Muldoon family's complex history, finding hidden links. Maybe Ambrose even uses an AI tool himself, like an AI therapist, to process the case's toll. But again, what gets lost? The slow, personal discoveries, the way Ambrose connects with people. If AI just presents the secrets on a platter, it's a different kind of story. And the idea of an AI reconstructing Percy like a digital ghost, how reliable is that? What biases are baked in?
It really feels like the impact on the sinners themselves would be complicated. Faster help, maybe, but also risks.
Totally. AI might speed up diagnosis, flag mental health issues sooner, but the danger is reductionism boiling down complex trauma to data points, missing the unique human story. And AI therapy. Could it genuinely help heal, or would it be simulated empathy? Could people become overly dependent on it? Big questions.
And Ambrose himself, how does he change?
He could become more effective, faster maybe, but at the cost of his intuition. Does he start to doubt his own gut feelings if they contradict the AI? He'd definitely carry new ethical burdens, and like we said, his own traumas could warp how he interprets AI profiles, making him vulnerable in new ways.
So it sounds like bringing AI into this world really forces a re-examination of core ideas like truth and memory.
Absolutely. What is truth? Is it the objective, statistical truth an AI might find, or the subjective, lived truth of the individual? That tension gets amplified. And memory, already shown to be unreliable in the show, becomes even more malleable with AI potentially reconstructing or even suggesting memories. What does closure or redemption even mean if your understanding is shaped by an algorithm?
Okay, so wrapping this up, it seems like putting sinners and AI together throws up this really powerful tension. On one hand, AI has this huge potential to help us understand complex situations, maybe even human behavior itself.
Right. Incredible potential.
But on the other hand, it brings massive ethical risks. It makes us question the nature of truth, memory, justice.
Yeah.
Especially in an AI-mediated world.
Exactly. Looking at these things through fiction, like Sinners, or imagining AI in The Sinner, it helps us see both sides, how AI could speed things up, uncover things, but also create totally new ways to deceive or misjudge. It's a really useful way to think through the implications for our own world.
And that brings us to a final thought for you, the listener. As algorithms become more and more a part of our lives, how do we make sure that our search for understanding, for justice, stays rooted in human empathy, in critical thinking? How do we avoid just blindly following the data? Maybe thinking about these fictional deep dives can help us all figure out what truth and memory really mean for us in this digital age. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.